Hello everyone, welcome to my live once again. Today we are reading the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and I have read some portion yesterday, and we will continue from where I left. So, if you are new, you can listen to the previous video and listen this. Hello everyone. Without any further delay, let's start. Viewer count is too less today. Why so? Hit that like button. So I wanted to wait if other might also join, but it looks like this is it. So let's start. Yesterday we were at to begin about the conversation of the Theodore Roosevelt and President Taft. So from there we will begin today. So comment if my voice is not clear or not high enough to listen. So if you have just joined the video, please hit that like button because it won't cost you anything at all, believe me. So let's start. You will find the examples of futility. So if you don't know the meaning of futility, it's a pointless. You will find the example of futility of criticism bristling on 1,000 pages of history. Take, for example, the famous quarrel between the Theodore Roosevelt and President Taft, a quarrel that split the Republican Party, put Woodrow Wilson in the White House, and wrote bold, luminous lines across the First World War and altered the flow of history. Let's review the fact quickly. When Theodore Roosevelt stepped out of the White House in 1908, he supported Taft, who was elected president. Then Theodore Roosevelt went off to the Africa to shoot lions. Hunting portion. When he returned, he exploded. He denounced Taft for his conservatism, tried to secure the nomination for a third term himself, formed the Bull Moose Party, and all but demolished the GOP. In the election that followed, William Howard Taft and the Republican Party carried only two states, Vermont and Utah, the most disastrous defeat the party had ever known. Theodore Roosevelt blamed Taft, but did President Taft blame himself? Of course not. With tears in his eyes, Taft said, "I don't see how I could have done any differently from what I have." Who was to blame? Theodore Roosevelt or Taft? What do you guys say? Frankly, I don't know, and I don't care. The point I'm trying to make is that all of the Theodore Roosevelt criticism didn't persuade Taft that he was wrong. I merely made Taft strive, justify himself, and reiterate with tears in his eyes. I don't see how I could have done any differently from what I have. Or take the teapot dome oil scandal. It kept the newspaper ringing with indignation. What indignation means anger of unfairness. When you are feeling unfair and you are raised with anger. So, ringing with indignation in the early 1920s, it rocked the nation within the memory of living men. Nothing like it had ever happened before in American public history. Here are the bare facts of the scandal. Albert B. Fall, Secretary of the Interior in Harding's cabinet, was entrusted with the leasing of government oil reserve at Elk Hill and Teapot Dome Oil Reserve. and Teapot Dome oil reserves that had been set aside for the future use of the Navy. Did Secretary Fall permit competitive bidding? No, sir. He handed the fact juicy contracts outright to his friend Edward L. Duhaney. And what did Duhaney do? He gave Secretary Fall what he was pleased to call a loan of $100,000. Then, in a high-handed manner, Secretary Fall ordered United Nations Marines into the district to drive off competitors whose adjacent wells were sapping oil out of the Elk Hill Reserve. Sapping means taking out, so they were taking out the oil. These competitors, driven off their ground at the end of the guns and bayonets, rushed into court and blew the lid of the teapot dome scandal. A stench arose so vile that it ruined the Harding administration, nauseated an entire nation, threatened to wreck the Republican Party and put Albert B. Fall behind prison bars. Fall was condemned, means criticized, condemned viciously, condemned as few men in Republic alive have ever been. Did he repent? Means did he regret? Never. Years later, Herbert Hoover intimated in a public space that President Harding's death had been due to the mental anxiety and worry because a friend had betrayed him. When Mrs. Fall heard that, she sprang from her chair. Means she wake up so early like juruk utnu vanjani. So sprang from her chair, she wept. She shook her fist at fate and screamed, "What? Harding betrayed by Fall? No, my husband never betrayed anyone. This whole house full of gold wouldn't tempt my husband to do wrong. He's the one who has been betrayed and led to the slaughter and crucified." Crucified means death of someone by say by tying the nails in their body like death of Jesus. That's what they say. There you are, human nature in action. Wrongdoers blaming everybody but themselves. We're all like that. So, when you and I are tempted to criticize someone tomorrow, let's remember El Capone. Who was El Capone? Two gone. Crowley and Albert Fall. Let's realize that criticism are like homing pigeon. They always return home. Let's realize that the person we are going to correct and condemn will probably justify himself or herself and condemn us in return. Or, like the gentle Taft will say, I don't see how I could have done any differently from what I have. On the morning of the April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln lay dying in a hall bedroom of a cheap lodging house directly across the street from the first theater where John Wilkes Booth had sought him. Lincoln's long body lay stretched diagonally across a sagging bed. So if you don't know the meaning of sagging bed, search it. Okay, that was too short for him. Uh, a cheap reproduction of the Rosa Bonheur's famous painting, the horsefair hung over the bed, and a dismal gas jet flickered yellow light. As Lincoln lay dying, Secretary of the War Stanton said, "There lies the most perfect ruler of the men that the world has ever seen." So, hello everyone. If you are new to this live, hit that like button, and if you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. And tell me, how are you? How's your time going? There lies the most perfect ruler of men that the world has ever seen. What was the secret of Lincoln's success in dealing with the people? He was great with dealing with people. I studied the life of Abraham Lincoln for 10 years and devoted all of the 3 years to writing and rewriting a book entitled Lincoln the Unknown. I believe I have made as detailed and exhaustive a study of Lincoln's personality and home life as it is possible for any being to make. I made a special study of Lincoln's method of dealing with people. Did he indulge in criticism? Oh, yes. As a young man in the Pigeon Creek Valley of the Indiana, he not only criticized but he wrote letters and poems ridiculing the people and dropped these letters on the country road where they were sure to be found. One of these letters aroused resentment that burned for a lifetime. Even after Lincoln had become a practicing lawyer in Springfield, Illinois, he attacked his opponent openly in letters published in the newspaper. But he did this just once too often. In the autumn of 1842, he ridiculed a vain, pugnacious politician by the name of James Sild. Lincoln lammed him through an anonymous letter published in a Springfield journal. The town roared with laughter. Sild, sensitive and proud, boiled with the indignation. He found out who wrote the letter, leaped on his horse, started after the Lincoln and challenged him to fight a duel. Lincoln didn't want to fight. He was he was opposed to dueling, but he couldn't get out of it and save his honor. He was given the choice of weapons. Since he had very long arms, he chose cavalry, broadsword, and took a lesson in sword fighting from a West Point graduate. And on the appointment day, he and Sill met on a sandbar in Mississippi River, prepared to fight to the death. But at the last minute, their second interrupted and stopped the duel. That was the most lurid personal incident in Lincoln's life. It taught him an invaluable lesson in the art of dealing with people. Never again did he write an insulting letter. Never again did he ridicule anyone. And from that time on, he almost never criticized anybody for anything. Hello, Sudan Chetri, if I'm pronouncing right. I'm also from Nepal. So where was I? Okay, yeah. He learned the lesson, a valuable lesson that he could never forget. The way of dealing with people without insulting. Time after time, during the Civil War, Lincoln put a new general at the head of the Army of the Potomac, each one in turn. McClellan, Pope, Burnside, Hooker, Meade blundered tragically and drove Lincoln to pacing the floor in despair. Half the nation savagely condemned this incompetent general, but Lincoln, with malice toward the none, with charity for all, held his peace. One of his favorite quotations was, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." And when Mrs. Lincoln and others spoke harshly of the Southern people, Lincoln replied, "Don't criticize them. They are just what we would be under similar circumstances." Yet, if any man ever had occasion to criticize, surely it was Lincoln. Let's take just one illustration. The Battle of Gettysburg was fought during the first 3 days of the July 63. During the night of the July 4, Lee began to retreat southward while storm cloud deluged the country with rain. So if you are new and watching the live now, hit that subscribe and like button. So I'll be reading for 5 minutes more. After that, we will continue tomorrow. So let's start. Hmm. When Lee reached the Potomac with his defeated army, he fought a sullen, impassable river in front of him and a victorious Union army behind him. Lee was in a trap. He couldn't escape. Lincoln saw that. It was a golden, heaven sent opportunity, the opportunity to capture Lee's army and end the war immediately. So, with a surge of high hope, Lincoln ordered Meade not to call a council of war but to attack Lee immediately. Lincoln telegraphed his orders and sent a special messenger to Meade demanding immediate action. And what did General Meade do? He did very opposite of what he was told to do. He called the council of war in direct violation of the Lincoln's order. He hesitated. He procrastinated. He telegraphed all the manners of excuses. He refused point blank to attack Lee. Finally, the waters receded and Lee skipped over the Potomac with his forces. Lincoln was furious. What does this mean? Lincoln cried to his son Robert, "Great God, what does this mean? We had them within our grasp, and had only to stretch forth our hands and they were ours. Yet nothing that I could say or do could make the army move. Under the circumstances, almost any general could have defeated Lee. If I had gone up there, I could have whipped him myself." In bitter disappointment, Lincoln sat down and wrote Meade this letter. And remember, at this period of his life, Lincoln was extremely conservative and restrained in his phraseology. So this letter coming from the Lincoln in 1863 was tantamount to the severest rebuke. So, from this letter, we will continue tomorrow. So, until then, bye bye. Have a great time. Good night. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it. When will you do? Bye, guys.